So today, we're going to talk about a real titan of 20th century literature, Thomas Stearns Eliot. This is a man whose words didn't just contribute to poetry and criticism, they completely redefined them.
I mean, his impact was just monumental. When he won the Nobel Prize in 1948, the committee didn't just call him great, they called him a pioneer. That's a huge statement. So what was it that made his work so groundbreaking? Well, for starters, you've got to understand that Eliot wasn't just a poet, not by a long shot. He was also a hugely influential critic, a playwright who took serious risks, and even a publisher. He was shaping what people read from every single angle. But to really get a handle on his work, you have to understand the man himself. His journey is this incredible story about feeling like an outsider, about a deep spiritual search, and about finding a radical new way to see a modern world that felt like it was fracturing into pieces. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to follow his path from being an American in London feeling totally out of place to becoming this deeply English spiritual thinker. And we'll see how his life directly forged some of the most famous poems ever written. So let's get into it. Our story doesn't begin in a foggy London alley like you might imagine. No, it starts in the American Midwest, right on the banks of the Mississippi River, a place that would echo in his work for his entire life. He was born in St. Louis, Missouri, American through and through. But after his time at Harvard, he makes this massive, life-altering choice. At just 25, he moves to England. And he's not just visiting. By 1927, he's all in, renouncing his American citizenship and becoming a British subject. But here's the thing, he never totally shook off his roots. He even wrote later that his American childhood, and especially that powerful, moody Mississippi River, had left a deeper mark on him than any other place on earth. And it's that tension, right? That pull between his American past and his English present that became the engine for his poetry. And this feeling, this sense of being an outsider looking in, it absolutely fueled his early work. It was there, in London, that Eliot really found the voice to express the nervous, anxious, fragmented soul of the modern age. His first major poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, was a complete shock to the literary world. It wasn't about heroes or grand passions. It was about this hesitant, neurotic, deeply alienated modern man. When it came out, people thought it was just bizarre. But Prufrock, well, that was just the opening act, because in 1922, he published The Wasteland. And this wasn't just a poem. It became the anthem for an entire generation that had been completely shattered by the horror and meaninglessness of the First World War. Right from the opening line, you know something is deeply wrong. April is the cruelest month. Think about that. April is supposed to be about rebirth, about hope. He turns that entire idea on its head, and right away, you feel this profound sense of disillusionment. And this isn't just sadness, it's a deep, existential dread. When he writes, "I will show you fear in a handful of dust," he's stripping everything down, suggesting a world that's lost all its spiritual meaning. And the very way the poem is built, like a collage of different voices, myths, languages all mashed together, it mirrored this sense of a broken civilization. It's like the poet himself is gone, and all that's left are these fragments shored against my ruins. The technique itself is the message. All we have left are the broken pieces. Now, when you diagnose the spiritual sickness of an entire generation so powerfully, it's often because that sickness is also deeply personal. And for Eliot, this realization led him to a really dramatic turning point. That year was 1927, a pivotal year. In the very same year that he became a British citizen, Eliot was baptized into the Church of England. He publicly and wholeheartedly embraced Christianity. And this spiritual commitment completely transformed his poetry. You get works like Ash Wednesday, which basically map out the difficult, painful journey from the despair of the wasteland towards the hope of salvation. His new faith also reshaped his ideas about literature. He developed this concept of tradition. Now, that sounds kind of stuffy, right? But for Eliot, it wasn't about blindly copying the past. It was about seeing all of literature, from Homer to the present day, as one single living thing. A new work of art didn't just add to it, it actually changed how we see everything that came before. And this brings us to his most radical idea, his theory of impersonality. He completely rejected the popular romantic idea that poetry is just a vehicle for the poet's own feelings. No. For Eliot, the poet's mind should be more like a catalyst in a science experiment. It's a medium that combines and transforms raw emotions into art, but it leaves no trace of the poet's own personality behind. He really sums it up perfectly in his own words here. For him, making great art wasn't about self-expression, it was a kind of surrender, a process of getting your own ego out of the way to serve something much larger, the poem itself and the whole of tradition. So this whole spiritual and intellectual journey, it all culminated in his final great poetic work, a true masterpiece of philosophy and religious meditation. The four quartets, which he wrote over several years during World War II, starts with this incredibly deep look at the nature of time. Right away, you know he's moved beyond social commentary and is now wrestling with the very nature of consciousness itself. And through these four amazing poems, Eliot is exploring this one huge idea. How can we, who are caught in the endless flow of time, somehow access a moment of timelessness? He's searching for that spiritual center, that quiet place he famously called the still point of the turning world. It's really the magnificent end to his lifelong quest. So, what is his legacy? I mean, it's hard to overstate. Eliot was a true revolutionary. He basically invented a new language for poetry to talk about the modern world. He rewrote the rulebook for literary criticism, and from the Wasteland to the Four Quartets, he gave a voice to the spiritual anxieties of a century. He left behind a body of work that we are still trying to unpack today. And this leaves us with one last question to think about. Eliot was writing about a world of broken pieces and spiritual emptiness almost 100 years ago. If you look at our world today, with all its anxieties and its search for meaning, you have to wonder, have we ever really left the wasteland behind?